let's go to the next. So convincing PowerPoint to behave. So I am Laura Graham Brown. In most places, I'm known as Laura GB because let's be honest, Graham Brown's too long. So on Twitter, I'm Laura GB. My blog, apparently it's been down for the last week. I've got it back up and running today. And on YouTube, it's Hatful of Data. It's the name of my channel. I've got a couple of videos that support tonight's session. On there, I've also got a blog post that supports tonight's session. And I work for a company called HSO. I'm a Power BI solution specialist for them. I'm also the RPA specialist, but that's another story for another session. If anybody would like to volunteer to take over, please let me know. On the RPA side, I like Power BI. Right, so today's agenda, we're going to have a look at what custom visual options have we got out there. There are quite a few, and there's some really cool ones out there. So there's some new ones out there. Then we're going to have a look at some of the jargon that goes with the Charticulator, what those things are, and then we're going to do a demo. And then we're going to have a quick look at some of the resources and some of the things that are available to help you and support you moving forwards. There are some really good things out there that people have done with Charticulator. So, custom visuals in Power BI. There's a whole range of them, okay? So for the coders amongst us, for the people who the idea of writing Python and JavaScript, etc., doesn't give you nightmares. I keep meaning to learn R. I haven't quite got there yet. But for those, there is lots of ways of writing custom visuals at that end of the realm. On the low code range, the HTML editor, there are a number of them out there, but that happens to be the one that I use. Is brilliant. I've got a whole bunch of posts that are writing SVG that we can shove into a HTML visual, and they work great. And then there is the new kid on the block, the Deneb custom visual, which is awesome. It does some really stunning stuff, but it does require you to write some code. It does require you to get your hands dirty and put some things in there. It's JSON code, so it's not too horrific, but it is a bit fiddly. And if you're not up for that, that's totally fine. I've had a play with it, and I think it's got the potential to be absolutely amazing. We're in the right hands. On the no code end of the spectrum, we've got things like Infographic Designer, the Synoptic Panel. There are a number of other ones out there as well that allow you to. So there's one that allows you to create SVG from PowerPoint and use those and all sorts of things. There are some fantastic ones out there. They're worth exploring and have a look. The one we're talking about today, though, is the Charticulator visual. Okay, it's one produced by Microsoft. It gets updated. It's got some things coming through that come through. You'll see updates coming through on that one. And it's recently changed from being a website to being inside Power BI, which is one of the reasons why I picked it to be a topic to look at. Brian, it's only you that's getting the beeps. I'm not hearing any beeps either. So, some of the jargon, okay? Glyphs is a draw. So whatever is drawn is for every row of your data, okay? There are guides to get to anchor things to, which have there are anchors where the guides cross over. There are points which you can stick things to. The scaffolds is how your visual sticks together. The scaffolds and stacking is where we go between grids and we go between bar charts and column charts. And then there's a layers section which will tell you where all the items are. Okay, so that's some of the jargon. It'll make more sense once we're inside Charticulator. So stop talking, it's demo time. So let me switch over to Power BI. So here we are in Power BI with some example visuals. Okay, so these are visuals that have been built in Charticulator, which shows you some of the range that we've got. This is all showing the same kind of data, by the way. This is data from a town down in Cornwall called Camborne. So this is showing the different temperatures over different decades. We've got rainfall and sunshine hours. And we've got some a simple bar chart here, and one of the pretty radial ones, which is very pretty. Not sure it's readable to anything useful, but it's very pretty. It's one of those kind of visuals. And just to reiterate what's been put into chat, please, if you have questions, please do stop and pop your questions into the chat. And I'll keep a vague, I've got chat in the separate window to my left, so I'll keep a vague eye on chat as well. And I'll answer questions, and if we need more clarification, I'll get you to come off, get you to come off mute. So the Charticulator visual is a custom visual. So you find it under the Get More Visuals. That's going to ask me to sign in, isn't it? Sorry, I have to download a new copy of Power BI to get this to behave. Let's just pick that. Let's pick one of these ones. Apologies. There we go. We can add a custom visual now. So if I go and I do a search for chart I, it'll show you what it is, and you can click add to add it to this report. We already have. But one of the reasons I want to bring you into here is so that you can see some various parts in here. Okay, the download sample is really worth going and having a look, and just because it gives you some examples of some things that you can do. Okay, and I strongly recommend it. There are a number of visuals they put out as samples, like these radial ones, etc. I'll state again, they're very pretty. And if your team can read them and can find use for them, great. Please be careful on the pretty for pretty's sake rather than useful. So I am going to go and close that because we don't need to add it. And I am going to go in and add a new page. So let me talk about our data that we've got. So as we look under the data side here. So under our data, we have the data that we're going to be looking at today, okay, is our weather that we've got, how much rain there was. We do actually get some sunshine in the UK, much to everyone's surprise, especially down in Cornwall. Okay, nowhere else, but Cornwall gets it. And we've got the month, so every month, we've got a reading to go with the data. Okay, and I've deliberately put a month on the end so that we can connect it back into our calendar to get the decades, because decades information is a little bit more interesting. And I've got a couple of measures in here to do with the maximum temperature, minimum temperature, total rainfall, average rainfall, all those kind of measures I've put into there to make it easy to build these visuals. Okay, so I've got in here, if we ignore the safety cost because that was being done for something else, and I've forgotten it was in here, but we've got our data here related to our calendar. So I'm going to come up with a really simple little bar chart. Okay, so we're going to go with average sunshine in over, let's do an average sunshine over the decades. So similar to the average rainfall one. So we're going to go for adding in our visual. And I am going to add on to here. I'm going to go and add data in. Now, so we're going to go for under the calendar, I'm going to go for decade. And to make sure it's in the data area. And then under my weather, I am going to go for average sunshine. Now, by default, it ends up trying to fill all the things in. I don't want it to go to into the links. I'm going to move that up into my decade instead. Okay. Now, just so that you can see what the data is going to look like, I'm just going to quickly convert that to a table. Okay, so that's the data we're looking at, and that we're going to make into a simple little bar chart inside Charticulator, and look at some of the reasons why we use Charticulator rather than just the bar chart. So then we're going to have, so then let's go up to our more options, and we go to edit. So on the ellipses, click edit. And here's where you can import templates. We'll come to templates later. Or we can just go for start with a blank. So let's go for a create chart. And here is the Charticulator window. Okay. So in chart, so we've got a toolbar at the top here, which we'll be talking about things. And actually, weirdly, you spend a lot of time dragging things off that toolbar. So in that regard, it's a little bit different, or ribbon, maybe you'd call it. In here is the plot area, and over here is the glyph. This is the thing that gets drawn for every row of data. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to build a bar chart. So I'm going to start really simple with, I want a box for every row of data. So up here are the marks, and you can see you've got a number of marks here, but I'm going to go for a straight simple rectangle, and I'm going to click it and drag it onto the glyph box. And there we are, we've got 4 columns been put in there, and that's because there are 4 rows of data. Okay, now I don't want it to be a column chart, I actually want a bar chart. So what we're going to do in here, okay, is we're going to have a look at our into here. I am going to go for stack Y, and there you are, I get 4 bars instead. Okay, it's evenly split up the plot area, and we can see it over here in the layers section. I've got the glyph, and in there I've got a shape that shows me the bars there. The thing that I keep wanting to do is rename these shapes, and there isn't any way to do that at the moment. I'm really hoping that comes as an update later, because when you've got lots of shapes in there, it's a little bit complicated. So the things we can do next. So that obviously those bars, they're all the same length because they are just fitted in there. There's no restriction in there. If we scroll down and look, okay, we're going to go for, if I click onto the shape, make sure you got the right thing picked there. There is a width for our shape. And if you see at the end of this box, there's a little link button. I can click on the link button, and it will give you all the number fields. Now, I'm not grouping rows together here, so it doesn't matter what the aggregation at the end there is. You can do some grouping, so then it would matter. So I'm going to go for average sunshine. That's not very much variety there, but hey, we'll go with it for the time being. And there we are. We've got our average sunshine put across there. Now we might choose that we want to be able to change the color of it. Okay, now I'm just going to stick to a standard color. Later on, we'll have a look at colors varying. So click back on the shape, and it's sunshine. So let's make it a nice sunshiny kind of color. And so that gives us a really simple chart. Okay, I haven't got a bar across the bottom showing us scales and things like that. I'm going to add in some text instead. Okay, so I'm going to add some text on the end of my bar to show how many hours there are there. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am going to add in some text. There are 2 choices on text. There is a text, or there is a text box. Okay, in this case, I am going to go for text, and that's not doing what I wanted it to do. Let me just lose that pointer for a second. I'm going to pick text, and I'm going to drag that text, and I'm going to drag it on to my chart. and it puts it in the middle of the bar. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to unpin that glyph, make it a bit bigger, maybe. And then I'm going to click this auto zoom that will make it fill the screen. Okay. So now you can see in a little bit more details what you're up to, and we can pin it back when we're finished. So this text I want to be on the over here at the end, and I want it to be a number that's in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up, when I move my cursor over that green dot, I get a arrows, which means I can move it. You can't see the orange lines because my text is orange. My apologies. I'm going to move it to there, and you'll see the text moves. Okay. Now you can play with alignment of that text, or the anchor as it's attached to it. So if we look at the anchor over here in the attributes, I've got left, middle, right. At the moment it's middle. So let's go for right. And let's put it to the right. And on the vertical, I can put it in the middle. So there we are. It's there. And we can put in a margin on that right. So we can say, do you know what? Let's put in 20. Now, one of the things that's a little bit annoying in Charticulator, you've got to move out the box for it to apply. So let's go and click somewhere else. And there we are. It's put a bit of a bigger gap in there. We can also pick a size of our text. So let's make it a little bit bigger, and perhaps even make it white against that. But it's still saying just text. Okay, so what we can do into here is we're going to put in a number into that text. So on the text box here, we've got that link button as well. And I'm going to put it in as the average sunshine. And there we are. We get a number there. Now, this syntax that's in here, the formatting syntax on the end comes from D3. And it's at the moment it says 0.1f. Now 0.1f is it's saying one fixed decimal place. That's what it means. Now there are a number of things you could put into there to make that a little bit different. Maybe I don't care about the decimal places because hey, once you got to 139, do you really care about the 0.3? So I could put a 0f, and that would also fix it. When you move off, you can see where that's going. Or I could put into there, I'm gonna have to remember the code. I'm gonna get it wrong. I can see this coming. Put in a D. That will also give me the same thing. In a moment, I will remember where the link is for that. There is a link for the formatting of that. I will find out in a moment. What's in my measure? We'll come back to that one in a second, Fernando. I think that is average per month, but I will check it out in a second. So once I've got that in, I can also, after that, put in some text. So we don't need to worry about ampersands, concatenation, or anything like that. It will just put things in. So I can put in my hours. Okay. And I am going to pin that back on. And I am going to, what we haven't done is we haven't put in a label for the decade. So I'm going to show you another one that we can do. I can pick up decade here. Yes, that is the link, Gina. Thank you very much. And I am going to drag my decade and I'm going to put it on the y-axis. And there we are. We get our decades put down the side. Now I need to move this guide so that you can see the text that's next to it. Right? Now, there's a number of ways of doing this. I quite often put the decade as a text in there and rotate it, but I just want to show you this one here because there's another trick to do. This axis down here, it's got ticks and it's got lines, but on a simple bar chart like that, you don't need those. So if I come back to my plot segment, okay, the plot segment is the box that everything's inside. And I'm going to scroll down through here. So to make things a little easier to see, I'm just going to minimize the glyph. And what I'm going to do down here is I am going to, onto my y-axis, if I scroll down, you can see down here it's going with style. So what I can do is I can turn off showing the tick line and those vanish. And I can turn off showing the baseline. And there you are. You get no line at all. If I unselect there, we just get a label next to the boxes. Okay, so there's no lines at all. It's perhaps a little cleaner. Yeah, Gina, I have to confess that I was going to Google too. But the fact that you Google, it makes it that one there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show this going back into Power BI, and then we'll answer Fernando's question regarding the regarding what's inside the measure. So I'm going to go back to the report. And in here, it asks you what you want to save. Okay, so I'm going to click save because everything's worked so far. And there we are. There's my chart come through. Right. So what's inside my average measure? So I have literally just gone for the average of the sun hours, which means it's the monthly average. Okay, so that is not the average per year, that is literally over all the months. So if I go and have a look in the data, it's the average of that column per decade. Wow, okay. Coming back to why did I format it in Charticulator? So one, I have to admit, I haven't tested to see if Charticulator obeys the rules, but I'm going to test that one. But I will test that one. If I go and have a look at that visual there, okay, at the moment it's under auto places there, and I could have fixed it there. I might be using this measure in multiple places. In other places, I might care about that decimal place. So when it comes to things like percentages and currency and things like that, I'm always keen on the measure being formatted in the definition of the measure. I'm really keen on that. When it comes to decimal places, if you are just doing it for a visual like this, some of the times those points are more useful elsewhere. So they might want some other ones in there to make sure they behave. Okay, so I think it's I'm going to test though to see if it behaves, because I don't think it does. I don't think it totally obeys. So I am just going to I'm just going to test that one. So if I come into here and I'm going to put it to be have 2 decimal places. On the average sunshine, and on another visual we'll see if that comes through, but I'm not sure it does because it nearly always comes back with 1 decimal place. But I will test that one. Nice question, good question. So we've put in there, we've put in a bar chart, we've managed to put some nice text in there. We could have put the decade. So one of the things I've done in if you look at my Blue Peter page, which is my laptop is not playing ball today. You see, I put the text rotated onto there to be the frost days per year. Okay, so that was my example, that a very similar one done there, right? So that works. We just got to work out what kind of visual you're looking for. So as an alternative to that kind of thing, let's go and have a look at another visual. Unless someone's got it. Well, I'm going to have a look at this visual instead. We're going to go and have a look at the grid and get that one to work. So let's go back onto our page. And we're going to go for another Charticulator visual. And this time, what we're going to go for is we are going to go for, I'm going to add in decade. And I'm going to add in month name. And I'm also going to add in our maximum temperature. In the UK, it's a bit cold, so we're always keen on maximum temperatures. Now, if you look, they didn't all go in the right places, so I'm just going to make sure that they are all in the data. I should have dragged and dropped them rather than just ticking them. Okay, so there's my 3. I am going to go and click edit. And I am going to create our chart. So this time we're still sticking to having a square. This time we have a lot more squares. Okay, we have a lot more squares because we've got in every decade a month and the maximum temperature in that month. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we don't want columns or bars, etc. So I am going to click into the area again, and we are going to change the stack to be a grid. Okay, and on a grid we get lots of little boxes. Okay, so there are all the boxes that match one box for every row of data. So let's color them. Okay, so let's do that first. So let's go make them pretty. So I'm going to make sure I click on the shape first. And under the fill of the box, you'll see there is a link button. So we're going to click on the link button. And I am going to go for the maximum temperature. And by default, it comes up with this wonderful black and white and scales of grey boxes in there. And the color brewer, which is another wonderful name, has in it some set versions we can come up with. I'm going to go for the red blue one. That's red, yellow, blue. Is there just a straight red, blue? No, there isn't. Let's just go for the red, yellow, blue then. That's a bit bizarre, isn't it? I'm going to go straight for the red, blue one, which is what I wanted. Right, there we go. The red, blue that's there. Okay. Now it gives you a whole bunch of squares, and we can see that we've got that's obviously the hottest ones and that's the coldest ones. There are some very pale colors in here. So you can go onto the custom and turn around and go, do you know what, that pale color that's there, I'm going to go, don't bother with that color because that doesn't work. And there we are. We probably can see those a little bit better. You possibly could consider what you're going to do with these. But there you are. You've got the RGB of all those colors, and you can edit it. You can edit it up under the custom. One of the things that so even if you click off, let me just show you where you can click off. You'll now see that we've got under here, we've got our scales panel. And if I click on to shape one fill, back comes up this box. Okay. And it gives you an idea of the start and the end. So you could fix those if you need them to be a particular range so that you can compare reports to other reports. The other thing that we have in here is we have a legend. So there we are, that's added in our legend into there. And it's moved this guideline deliberately over a bit, but I'm going to move it back out again, just so our legend is just on the edge of our chart. So that's done those parts, okay? But the order of these squares and which square means what? What are the min-max values and how are they different from the default? So let me just quickly go back into that, into here. So it's looked at my data and has worked out that the checkbox is here. So auto min and auto max. I think that's going to react to my data, so that if I came in with other data, it would change that one there. I have to admit, I have not tested that enough to know how well it reacts. Okay. The start and the end, it auto calculates when you first create the chart. I'm getting it right now. When you first create the chart, it auto does those ones. If you wanted those to change, let's say, if you wanted it to change, then these ones would change with it. So I think what these will react to data changing. So if you wanted it that you always did like 0 to 30, because that's the range, then that's what I would expect it to work on, Gina. So that's where I'd expect that to come from. But when you first create your chart, the numbers it puts in there are the equivalent of what it will do in auto in future. So we want these boxes ordered. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take decade and I'm going to drag it across to be on the y-axis. So my decades are going down the side here. And now across here, you've got your months. So I've got 12 for each one, but they aren't sorted either, because let's be honest, we're not having a warmer month at the end of the year. So then I'm going to bring in the month name. Not from there. I always end up picking it from the wrong place. The month name from here in the fields. Let's hide those ones so that I can't pick those ones by mistake. And we're going to pick the month name and put it on the x-axis. Okay. And here is the wonderful Power BI. And I'm sure if any of you have taught beginners Power BI, this is what you end up showing people, and the months are organized incorrectly, etc., etc. But I know how to build a calendar in Power BI. Oh, by the way, sorry, I just moved that guide up so that the months will fit in. I know how to build a calendar in Power BI. Okay, if I just quickly, we're just going to do a quick back to the report and a save. I'm going to prove that I have got it right here. As you see, we didn't move that guide, so I need to do that when we get back. But let me just go and show you in the data that if I go and have a look in the calendar, my month name is sorted by month number. It was already done. It's already there. Charticulator doesn't 100% obey it. It does on the odd occasion just to confuse me, but it doesn't in most. So, well, it can't because it doesn't have the month number. So, what I'm going to do is just a really simple little fix is from the calendar, bring in the month number as well. And hey, presto, it's fixed. Okay, so you've got to include the sort by columns in to your data, as well as the ones you're going to display for it to work it out. Okay, I have no idea if that's a feature or if that's a bug. I'm going with it's a feature. So here we are. We've managed to get our months in the right order. We can move this over so that we've got our decades showing there. That works. Okay. Our legend, we can put in a number of formatting. We can also choose the alignment that we want it to be inside its little box. Okay. And how all that's going to work, I'm not sure how this one's going to work on a so the vertical. So you need to understand the alignment based on that little dot is how it's working. Okay. So the anchor point that's in the corner there is how your legend is going to work. We'll have a look at some other legends in a minute. Are there tooltips available? Good question. Good question. So when we go back into our report and we save, okay, so there we are. We've got it all in there. When you look, you can see that you're not getting any tooltips coming up at all on any of these charts when you hover over them. Okay. But in here, if I go and add in the decade into there as well, and we'll fix the title in a minute. Actually, no, we'll fix the title. We'll fix the title now because it's going to drive us nuts. So this is going to be the max temp grid. That'll work. So when I start to add things to the tooltips, okay, so I can put in the decade, I can put in the month name, and I can, from the weather, put in the maximum temperature and other bits as well if you wanted. Right? Now, when I come into here, the tooltips works. Okay? But what it doesn't do, like Power BI visuals, that in the tooltips automatically comes the fields that you've added to parts of the visual. So you need to re-add them. Okay? Can a constant line be added to column charts? Nice question. Nice question, Jocelyn. I am going to suggest we have a different chart and we will have a look at how we would do that. Okay. So I am going to, that's a good question. Good question. I like it. I'm going to come back to that one. So yep, I'm going to come back to that one. So we've got in there our temp grid. We've got in there our decade and average sunshine. Okay. I want to talk about adding in things. So if you add in things that aren't floating, okay, you have to be, so if you add in a text box, and you don't stick it to something, it ends up floating. Okay, so you need to stick things to things. So what I'm going to do, so if you notice on here, I think this is how we're going to do the constant lines, but we'll come back to that. Okay, if I, and I think the screen's taking a while to refresh up is my laptop turning around and going, Mum, you haven't rebooted recently. And it's sulking because I had some big Power BI reports open earlier today. So this frost days per year, so putting a title down the side rather than sticking to the standard title is another so this is one of the reasons to use things like custom visuals, because you can add in something a bit different. So being able to do that kind of thing, I'm going to come back to my visual, and we're going to talk about adding a text box. And then we're going to have a look at one to do Jocelyn's idea of a fixed line. And if you can't tell, in the back of my head, I'm trying to work that one out. So let's go for adding a text box in. Yeah, Gina, that. To tell you the truth, the custom visuals can sometimes not be doing anything cleverer than a standard visual. Description, a smaller space, take away some of the clutter, make it cleaner. We can end up with an awful lot of clutter around a Power. So you'd end up with lines and stuff in here in a normal Power BI standard visual. It just gives you another way of doing it. So what I want to do is I want to add in a text box down the side there. So I'm going to go into edit this visual. And I realize this is meant to be a session, by the way, about Charticulator. But for those of you who are interested in custom visuals, please, please, please go out and find Deneb visuals and how they work, as well as the Charticulator, because there are some really good options on there. And if you organisers can book somebody to do the Deneb one, I'll come and attend, definitely, to come and do some nice simple demos. So I want to add in a text box with a title in it. So I'm going to pull this over a bit. And I'm going to add in a text box. Okay. Now, text box has the advantage that I can draw a box and the text is inside it. Okay. And I can, with that text box there, I can do things such as I'm going to go and put the text in there. The text, I'm going to put this in as sunshine in Camborne, because that's the place we're going for. I can rotate it. I'm going to find rotation in a second, but I can't find it, so I'm just going to go and look for it. I'm sure I can rotate it. Maybe I can't rotate a text box. It's worth of text. But that's bizarre. I can't do it with the text box. I thought I could. I'm going to delete that one then. I'm going to go and get rid of that one. I'm going to add in straight text. I know one of these I can rotate. So I'm not going to. I'm going to go for text. And that one I'm going to put sunshine. Sunshine in Camborne. And I can do rotation 90 degrees. So there we are, sunshine in Camborne. Now, I don't stick that to anything. Okay, so it's just floating free. I can end up with a problem that when I go back into my report and I save it, it can end up in all sorts of bizarre places. Quite often it ends up in the middle. But when you move things and resize things, I cannot guarantee where that text is necessarily. Let me resize it this way. I cannot guarantee where that text is actually going to end up in the visual. Okay. So let's go back in and edit it. So one of the ways is to be able to take it here. And I'm going to stick it. Oh no, there. That's a bit weird. I've broken it. Yep, I have. I'm going to delete it and re-add it. By the way, please be aware, okay, if you have a complicated Charticulator visual and you go and you're going to do something to it, and you're going to change it, please copy and paste it. Okay, just because yeah, Dan, yeah. I've just seen your comment, Benny. You're right, Daniel MP's time zone isn't ideal for us, but hey, that's his problem. That's not our problem. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Maybe we should convince him to come over or something. I don't know. We're gonna go for in here. I am just now going to call it sunshine because I'm fed up with typing in Camborne. And I am going to get that little sticker there, and I'm going to stick it on there. Okay, so I've stuck it to that line. Now, where it is along that line is something I might want to think about as well. So I'm going to add in a guide, and I'm going to add in a X guide. Now, my experience of doing this is to wiggle your mouse around until a blue line appears, and then I can put a guide in as to where I want that text to be. Okay, and that guide will have a definition about where it's offset from. Okay, and then I can move that little anchor onto the cross of those two, and it will always stick to that cross. Okay. Technology, Gina, I'm booking you for every session I ever do because you came up with some really good ideas there. So yeah, a custom visual draft would be a great way. I've got some Power BI reports that have in them the visual drafts, but we'll also talk about templates in a second. So on my sunshine there, I can now come down here and go to my rotation and go for 90, and there you are. See, it's stuck and it's put itself in there. I can up my font so that there you are, it's down the left hand side. Okay, and I am going to go and put slightly more than just sunshine into my text, or I'm going to talk about, yeah, no, we'll leave it at that for a second. Okay, now that means when I come back into my report and I click save, and this is what you should be doing, okay, making sure you're coming back in here and it does work. But let's talk about the size of visuals. Okay, they have a proportions, they have so if I take this to be Diddy and small, it will just try and fit it in there. But do you see the font doesn't change? Okay, so the font is not as reactive, is not reactive like it is in a Power BI visual. And you've got to kind of understand the size that you're going to want the visual to be. So in this case, if I wanted it to be a nice long thin one, I actually need to set that up in my Charticulator. So if I wanted to become a little bit longer and thinner, or I want it to fit differently, let's go back into our visual and fix. Let's stop resizing it for a second. Let's go back into our visual and fix that one, and then we'll talk about fixed lines. So if I come into here, if you want to talk about the dimensions of your visual, you're going back to the plot segment. Okay. 87 visuals. What's the problem? No, please, no. Anybody here who's new to Power BI, please, no, don't do 87 visuals. Okay, there are many reasons why not to do 87 visuals. One is your reports will just take forever to load. So if I come back to my plot segment, okay, and I go down to my, I have got this one wrong. I am going to my chart. My apologies. Go to the chart, and you will see in here there are widths and heights. So my middle guides will fix themselves. Okay, so I could change my height if I wanted it to be a bit kind of a long thin one. I could change that to be 200, and you see it resizes things to fit a little bit better. Okay, now your margins around the outside, you can also change to make them work. And work out what, so you can actually get all of your visuals to have the same margins. So you could turn around and go, do you know what? I'm just going to make sure that that margin there is 100. So my UI guys just go nuts about Power BI. They hate it because they go, Laura, can we have? And I go, no, you can't. Just behave. That's just not going to work. I'd have to type in all the visuals and that's a challenge there. But when I show them the things I can do in here, they go, oh, we can guarantee that the outsides are exactly the same on visuals, and we can make sure, or we can take them down to naught, which sometimes is what you want to be able to see. Ken, the answer is no. Don't do that. Please, please don't do that. So here's who suggested we can make the page big enough to fit those 87 visuals. No, please don't. Please don't. Right. So now I can go back into here and I can go back into my report and click save. And there we are. We're getting a longer one. So you need to do some planning. You need to have some wireframes that fit your report, so you know the kind of dimensions you want things to be. That would work. Okay. So I am going to move on to the question earlier, and I'm just from Jocelyn. Can constant lines be added to column charts? And I'm just trying to work out how I would do some of these things. So what I am going to do is I'm going to create a quick, simple sunshine per month, because that'll give us a nice chart with some variation in it. So we are going to go for a new Charticulator visual. Yeah, I realize you're trying to fit them all in, but we're gonna change this a bit. Let's put it up there and make it a nice big one. Right, and what we're going to bring in is we are going to bring in the month name and the month number, just to make sure it does behave. And we're going to let's go for the number of hours of sunshine. Average sunshine. That makes more sense. That makes more sense. Okay. So, and let's put them all in the same one, because hey, I've forgotten it again. Right. And then we are going to go to edit. And then I'm going to have to create chart. I've just realized to do this one, I'm going to have to write some DAX, and I don't like writing DAX with people watching. So I'm going to do a really simple chart, just very simple, just very similar to the one we've done previously. Okay, but I'm going to start slightly differently. So when you are wanting to put things in comparison to each other, so I'm wanting to be able to put in a line and fix it somewhere. Okay, so in order to do that, I need I'm going to go with a data axis, and I'm going to drag that data axis into my glyph. Okay, and that puts it up the left-hand side. And that's because when I add in a square, it's going to be columns. Okay, so what I'm firstly going to do is I'm going to change this to stack Y. And then I am going to, no, I want it stack. I'm going to add in a mark just so I can see what's going on. You know, that's right. That's right. Okay. So I have added in, I've added in gone out my name, a data axis, and I've added in a shape. Okay, and there's my glyph. So we're going to unpin the glyph for a second. And I'm just going to, and actually I'm going to remove the shape just so that I can show you what's going on. Oh, let's minus out of that a bit. So what we're going to do is I am going to change this one here. Do you see it's a vertical one? And what I want is I want that to be a horizontal guide across the bottom. Okay, so that's going to be my, well, that's gone to the middle. My apologies. I don't want it to the middle. I went to the wrong cross. I want it right to the other end. Okay, there's a middle guideline and there's a left and there's a right guideline. So that's kind of showing me my scale along the bottom. And typically data axes only show on either the first or the light or the light or the last one. So the first or last. And in this case, I'll check it. There you are. It's on the first. So it's treating that bottom bar there as the first. Next, we're going to add in that mark. And that goes right along the bottom. Okay. So we've got we've now got in there, we've got a data axis and we've got a shape. And I want my data axis. We need sorry, me thinking about DAX has completely thrown me. Stop drawing the shape, Laura. Do the first bit next. So the first thing I want to do on that data axis is I want to add a data point based off my data. So I'm going to take in the average sunshine and I'm going to drag it onto my data axis in my glyph. Okay. And there we go. We've got our average sunshine has appeared in there. And we've got a little dot that's appeared there. Then we're going to add in our mark. And what I want it to do is I want it to match that mark that we've put on that grid line. So I am going to take in the end of that one there, and I'm going to drag it. I'm hoping I've got the chart. There we go. Now, the danger here is to make, so I just happen to have it lucky that it's fitting and working. Some of the time, it's a bit of a challenge to do that drag. And some of because the number that you want is the one that's here on the end. And the tricks that I have used on my data axis is the data here is to put a +10 on the end so that you actually have a chance of moving it off the end. Okay, so sometimes that's what's required in there to do. So there we are. We have our chart. Let me pin that glyph back on again. We have our chart. It's down there. Let's bring in the month name to the left-hand side. Wrong one. We're dragging again. Let's hide that one because I keep doing the wrong thing. Month name. And it has done the horrors to me. So we want to sort by month number. Wow. I have not had it do that to me before. I knew the demos were going too well. We're going to go for it sorted it in as well as the data axis is going to be because it's put it on the first one there. I am going to go back in to my it's now not going to give it to me. We're showing average for the sort. It's because it's going with the the average isn't so much of a problem because it's only one row of data each. Okay, I'm going to go back to the report and just come back in again. Because there we are, it's now behaving. I've had that happen before. I'm hoping it's going to behave once I go back into the chart. And now it's behaving. Explain that to me, somebody. But just now and again, I find that actually the best thing to do is to go back in and to edit it, save it, and then come back in here. So we've got our items in here. Okay, we've got our chart here showing the various points. We've got our data correspondence. Now, please note our data axis there is not starting at 0. There's a comment in the chat. I don't know if people are, yeah, my assistant, he's not my assistant. I don't call him my assistant. My wonderful husband, who tolerates me hugely, has gone to make tea. It's great. He's obviously realized the demo has broken. So in here, I have got it. You see the data axis is not starting at 0. So let's just fix that by going onto my data axis, and you can see your from range and your to range are in there. So I am going to change that to start at 0. Okay, so therefore we've got it starting in the right place there. The other part on your data axis, if this is going to show, okay, now if you're going to have this showing, some people don't, some people hide them, but if you're going to have it showing, okay, so there's a visible, you can turn it on and off, so we can have it so that nobody can see it. But you might want to choose how you're going to, so the position, the default is the numbers at the top. If I go to the opposite, it puts them down the bottom there, and I might want to move that slightly up, and you might want to put labels in and all sorts of nice things in there. Okay, so that gives us a chart that is working. So let's just quickly do a save on there. So that's the equivalent of going back into our report and saving. So I now want to put in a fixed line. Okay, and I am trying to work out the best way. In December, we don't get 200. In December, well, yeah, you're in a different country, Fernando. In Mexico, you get a whole bunch. You get a whole bunch more sunshine than we get. Okay, I should have got Mexico data. That would have been a lot. That would have been a lot sunnier. But no, we don't get. We don't even get 220 in our best months. And this is what we call summer. So let's go with working out how to put in that line. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to be a bit of a weird way to do it, is I'm going to go back into my report and I'm going to save it, and I am going to, in my table up here, I am going to put in a new measure. And I'm going to put it at it doesn't matter what the measure is, because I'm just going to come up with a fixed number. So I'm going to put in our it could be, I'm not writing any DAX. We certainly could. Thank you. We certainly get the tea's arrived, so everything's going to be fine now. I'm going to put in let me just go back and make sure I'm in here. And I'm going to put in a fixed hours, a line of 100. Okay. And what I'm going to do, let's get that. Now, that obviously could be a calculation, but hey, writing DAX in front of people is scary. So we're going to go for, and I probably would go for the average overall. But hey, and I'm going to add that fixed hours into this same visual. Okay. And that's given me a blank one as well. So let's just make sure this is nice and tidy. We are going to put into there a filter that the month name is not blank. Okay. That's not what I wanted either. Go away. So what I want to do now is, so that's tidied up that. We're now going to go back into our report. I heard somebody come up with a really good suggestion. I think it was on one of the Guy and Cube live sessions. That if you write your measures always with a blank page, they would that then you don't have to wait for things to redraw. I am not a DAX calendar table kind of girl. I am normally, for my work, for my commercial side, all of my calendars are data flows. Because it gives me a fast way to write it. But when I'm doing demos like this, and when I'm doing something that people want to be able to take a copy of my report, then yeah, sure, fine. I'm a DAX girl, and I will go to. By the way, I strongly recommend, if you haven't come across it, sorry, the diversion, guys. If you haven't gone and played with Bravo, you really should. It creates an awesome calendar. Anyway, back into here. Our fixed line. I'm still trying to work out how to do this. So my fixed line, I think I've worked out. So I'm just not sure that it's gonna. I'm just not sure that it's gonna look particularly good. So I am going to go for my my data axis. No, data flow. Data flow. I didn't. If I said data verse, it was a mistake. I have a data flow that has my calendar in it. So I think what I'm going to do on this one, okay, is I am going to get the fixed hours line, and I am going to put it into my data axis. And then I think I drag a line in. Well, that's a weird line, isn't it? And then can I put that line to but then they don't meet. Then they don't meet. Let me bring in a guide, a Y guide, move it around. And then I am going to, I'm ignoring the chat because yeah, it's derailing totally. I will have a look at chat in a minute, I promise. I'm going to go and grab this line, and I am going to. So there we go. There we go. What I've done, okay, just to walk through the solution that I've got there. I'm not totally sure it's the cleanest solution in the world, but it works. Is what I've done is I dragged on the fixed hours line to my data axis, which appears to have hidden itself. And then without having an overlap, you end up with little gaps between the lines. So then what I did was I dragged in a horizontal. So the guide Y is a horizontal guide, and that allows you to drag something in. Okay. I've now got to convince. I dragged that in to be a little bit above. Okay. It doesn't matter what the offset was, to make sure it's at least the gap between my bar charts. And then I dragged it up. Okay. Now that line, I could also pick to be a slightly more friendly color that's not going to be a black line. Okay, I can also pick a line style, so we could have it dashed. Okay. I don't like that line. I'm going to go for a orange line because that shows up a little bit better. Okay, but there you could have it going across there. So the other part that was in there, okay, so what I'm going to do into here is I'm just quickly going to save that one. And I am going to add in to our report. Okay. I am going to get it to come up. Thank you. I'm just going to minimize the filters pane again, just so it's not in the way. So that's added a fixed line. It's not the best thing in the world, but you could add in. But as I think people have pointed out, the okay, Justin, if that answers your question, layering one visual on top of another. So yeah, do you know what they have improved though? They have improved the whole adding constant lines in and things like that. There are I'm sure I saw somebody doing something about it recently. Someone's just posted a YouTube link in there as well. But this gives you an option, okay, and this gives you an option to put in multiple ones in there as well. Now, what I wanted to look at as well was let's go back to our shapes. Am I right? I've got at least 10 minutes left. I'm hoping I have.
Yep. Absolutely, cool. Laura.
Cool. Excellent. So one of the other parts in here, so one of the nice things that people end up with extras that they've added in. So I am just trying to work out a extra to put in here. I am off my calendar. I am going to put in, of course, my calendar hasn't got a quarter. So I am going to put in I am going to do some coloring. We're going to do some coloring. So I'm just going to quickly do a back to the report. So I want to show you how legends can be used very tidily in here. Okay. Now my view is all these tick marks you can get rid of and make it look a little bit cleaner, a little bit more slick. The other thing I want to be able to put in is a legend up here. So I want to put in some coloring for these months. So what I am going to do is I am going to create a measure. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's stop resizing it. So let's create a measure and let's write some DAX. So we're going to have a new measure. Don't do it on a page with lots of visuals because it takes a while for measure to think about life. And we're going to put in weather description. For anybody that knows the UK, the best weather description we have for most days of the year is drizzle. But we're going to get into here. So we're going to go for a if. We're going to go for the average sunshine. Don't do that. Type in a square bracket first. Is greater than 100. Oh, let's put it in greater than our measure, because hey, that makes sense, doesn't it? Then we're going to refer to it as sunny. Otherwise, it's going to be called cloudy. Okay. And then I am going to add that weather description to this visual. So we are then going to go back into our visual and we are going to edit it. And I am going to go to my shape. And we are going to, on the fill, there is a color there. So I can click on that one there. Now this time I'm going to not attach it to a number column. I am going to attach it to my weather description. And there we are. It immediately colors up and gives us the two color mappings and gives us two colors. So let's go for the sunny at least being a sunny color. And the cloudy being, that means the orange line really doesn't show anymore, but never mind. And the cloudy being a kind of gray color because, hey, that's the color of clouds. Oh, thank you. I didn't realize you couldn't add constant lines in bar charts, but there we go. I'll fix that dotted line in a second. But what we've put into there is we've put in our two colors, we've put in our descriptions. Okay, now I can click to add a legend, and there we are. It adds my legend in there. Okay, and let's do some formatting of our legend. Firstly, what shape do you want those little bits there to be? Do you actually want dots, or do you want it square boxes? And you get to choose. Okay, I am going to minimize my glyph for a second because I'm not in there. And there's my shape. So I can turn around and say, let's have it the rectangle. I can also the categorical legend orientation, so vertical or horizontal. Okay, and I can also then turn around and go, do you know what? Of the alignment of that little green dot, I want it to go to the right of it. And if you can fit it inside your chart, great, but you might not be able to because, hey, January might have been the sunny month. You never know. You might be in the southern hemisphere. That would be the sunny month then, wouldn't it? So then I can make it so that it's above that green dot. Okay, I can lower this down a little bit so that we can see it coming in, but it means we can fit it in with our chart. We can be a little bit more flexible about how our legend is laid out. And we can choose where it's going to go. It doesn't take up. We can make it so it doesn't take up so much space if required. And so then we can go back into there and we can save and actually go back into our report. The issue of measures, which is just a way to hide. Don't go in the calendar or go. Let's go on the safety class. That's a better idea. And then we're going to go back to our report. Okay. When it comes to the parts about templates, okay, I'm not totally sure that I'm going to tempt the demo gods on templates, but the one thing I am going to turn around and say, when you do a template, it will remember the names of the parts coming in here. So if you want to come up with some good generic names, please make sure you've done your renaming before you build your chart, because I have had it when I come in here and I decide I don't want it to say average sunshine, I want it to say sunshine hours or sunshine. I end up with it breaking my visual. It doesn't always happen, but just occasionally it has happened, because it's trying to do the mapping and it's trying to work it out, and it becomes a bit of a challenge. But when you import a template, it will try to match your data, and you'll have to do a mapping exercise to make sure the things that are going to the things that you are going to put into that you're going to match up. So if you're intending to build a template, and if you build good visuals, please make them templates. which means that we should have, before we started building it, we should have gone into here and made sure that these are named the right things. Okay, so that people can find them. If you always call it month name, month number, great, that works, but make sure that you get it right. In average, how many reports do you have with at least one Charticulator visual? So internally to my organization, I have 4 management reports that have Charticulator visuals in. Out on client sites, currently I only have 1. And that is because at the moment I've only been in the place I'm in 6 months, and we are making sure that we've got the support and the governance around the Charticulator visual. As they put it, it's, if Laura gets hit by a bus, what are we going to do? Because I'm the only person in the business at the moment doing it. So that's a case of skilling up and coming up with some standards about how these things should work. But I am expecting there to be some more, but I'm also looking at doing that with Deneb. Yeah, as Benny just put it only just got certified recently, so therefore there was lots of my clients just wouldn't even consider it. And it's people are very cautious of it. And actually, to tell you the truth, the one place I thought I was going to put it in for one client, their Power BI expert has now found Deneb and has gone, I want it to be a Deneb visual. It's like, oh, okay, fine, we'll think about that. And we're gonna work and look at that and see which one's the best one for them to go with. Okay. Previously you used to go to a website and sort them in, and you still can go to the Charticulator website and build visuals there. And that was some people's nervousness about it. You couldn't do it inside Power BI, which is why Microsoft, I think, brilliantly brought it inside Power BI. So going back, I realized I am nearly at time, and for once I'm going to behave. So there is I will put out these links. If you put out, I think that's the link that I put in the top one. That's the top one there. My hatful of data, I've also put up a simple custom chart, one of the ones we walked through today. And I've also got on the a chart. There is Power BI tips have done some great videos. And Burning Suit have also done some great, some brilliant blog posts. That's where I went and did a lot of things. They also have produced a book recently.